The clustered school of Makiang and Tabayo have always embodied the DepEd core values and continuously served the people in which the home of more than 200 pupils is situated. With 14 committed and competent teachers, the two schools have learning facilities that enhance and provide the learners a conducive learning environment. Makiang Elementary School has 100% Islam learners, while Tabayo Elementary School is a premier IPED school in the district of Siocon, where 98% of the learners are Western Sobanon. The schools are headed and supervised for more than 5 years by Mr. Rolito O. Tolentino, Head Teacher 2 of Siocon 2 District, and Mrs. Alona B. Paghasian as the teacher in charge of Tabayo Elementary School. After knowing the threat of COVID-19 pandemic, all schools in both private and public were immediately suspended and eventually closed under the executive order of His Excellency Rodrigo Roa Duterte. According to UNESCO, the pandemic has affected of approximately 1.5 billion learners across the globe. As response to the challenge brought by COVID-19, the Department of Education made a strategic plan to reconsider the opening of classes for school year 2020-2021.
Good day, everyone. I am grateful to our Heavenly Father for giving us sustaining strength and doing our everyday tasks. For every blessings, protection, and guidance, and all our endeavors. In these uniquely difficult circumstances, everyone's health and well-being are challenged, but we are able to serve our stakeholders by our continuing attributes to public education. We teachers are the closest witnesses of the challenges this pandemic has brought for our learners, for us, and for our jobs. And our expertise are significantly important in dealing or solving gaps and persistent challenges to effective teaching and learning as the pandemic continues in its after effects when the crisis will soon end in God's time. Tabayo and Makiang teachers are fine time in providing enough reading materials, modules, and reading and learning activities sheets. And also we have our home visitations to reach out learners that cannot come and get the provided learning resources. And with the practices of minimum health protocol. These are our best practices in this new normal time. Thank you.
Before the onset of the school year 2020-2021, teachers distributed the Learners Enrollment Survey Form or LESF, in which parents, guardians, and learners had the freedom to choose on what kind of learning modality they prefer for the continuity of education. Brigada Eskwela and Oplan Balik Eskwela initiatives prioritized the preparation of the reopening of classes. Makiang and Tabayo Elementary School's teaching staff give a full commitment to effectively and efficiently address the educational needs of the learners with the use of various innovative strategies without compromising the health and safety of everybody. One of the basic requirements in the new normal education in the Philippines is that the school must follow the guidelines on the required health standards in basic education schools to mitigate the risk of disease transmission, which includes having personal protective equipment such as masks and face shields, checking of body temperatures using infrared thermometers, use of foot bath for disinfection, functional hand washing facilities, physical distancing of at least 1 meter, and setting up plastic barriers for teachers' table. Hence, Wash in School program is intensified. Considering the present local situation, Makiang and Tabayo elementary schools conducted a parents' orientation on strategies in implementing distance learning delivery modalities. Parents, guardians, and its stakeholders opted to use the printed modular distance learning as embedded in the DLDM. During the activity, minimum health standards were observed. As schools prepare to shift to new modes of teaching on the 5th of October 2020, a dry run has been conducted. Teachers prepared self-learning modules and weekly home learning plans that will guide the learners from their respective homes. The dry run was successful despite the glitches. Parents, guardians, and learners were ready for the opening of classes. To capacitate teachers in the transit of distance learning, DepEd launches LDM2, or the Learning Delivery Modality Course 2 for teachers. The course aims to improve the readiness of teachers for the implementation and management of the Philippines' new normal education. Because of LDM2, teachers managed to deliver quality goods to the learners during the opening of classes using the contextualized self-learning modules, weekly home learning plan as a guide for the learning task per learning area, and individual learning monitoring plan for learners who lag behind. Classroom observations were made possible in the new normal setup of education as a quantitative way of measuring teachers' behavior and mastery as stipulated in the RPMS for school year 2020-2021. To alleviate stress brought by the distance learning, teachers engaged themselves on weekly dance workshop at school. The coming of pandemic has never stopped DepEd's school-based feeding program. Rather, it strengthens its objectives. Milk feeding is a program of Department of Agriculture National Dairy Authority in partnership with the DepEd as a component of SBFP. Since learning is now home-based, food products are either delivered to households or picked up by parents at schools. School lock sessions help in the communication and effective dissemination of orders and memoranda. It is also a gateway of implementation of such programs. To leverage the teaching practices of teachers, a 5-day in-service training was conducted on demonstration teaching in the time of COVID-19 pandemic, appropriate approaches in bridging learning gaps, and an orientation on the RPMS guidelines for teachers for school year 2020-2021. Public Schools District Supervisor Ms. Araceli C. Tombok visited the activity and gave inspirational motivation statement to teachers. Teachers earnestly joined webinars for personal and professional development and growth. In support of the self-learning modules, teachers developed contextualized learning activity sheets that learners should utilize during the home learning sessions. Teachers also captured feedbacks from parents and guardians and even to the learners on the distance learning. The schools conduct flag-raising ceremonies and participated on Earth Day tree planting. The two schools made regular home visitations to check learners' performance at his/her home learning environment. Oplan Pabasa is a form of reading assessment to identify learners who are readers and non-readers. Remedial reading is a program designated to the learners who lag behind in reading. Makiang and Tabayo elementary schools perform innovative strategies to address the needs of the learners in reading and writing. Schools Division of Zamboanga del Norte, in partnership with AHA Learning Center, created a program, Suporta Eskwela training sessions for all Zamboanga del Norte parents and guardians. Tabayo Elementary School received donations of face masks, notebooks, papers, ballpens, and other school supplies from Julian Soriano Memorial Comprehensive High School. Tabayo Elementary School purchased 2 Epson printers for the reproduction of self-learning modules and printing of learning activity sheets and worksheets and other learning materials. Based on the Consolidated Assessment and Technical Assistance Form or the ATAF 2.1 for the first quarter of Makiang Elementary School, it has 0% learners on outstanding, while 17% who achieve very satisfactory, 67% achieve satisfactory, 16% of the learners achieve very satisfactory, 0% learners who did not meet expectations, and 0% learners at risk of failing. For quarter 2, still 0% learners on outstanding. 19% of the learners got very satisfactory. 69% of the learners achieved satisfactory. 12% of the learners on fairly satisfactory, while 0% of learners who did not meet expectations, and also 0% of learners at risk of failing. On the consolidated ATAF 2.1 of Tabayo Elementary School for quarter 1, 4% of the learners achieved outstanding, 22% of the learners got very satisfactory, 53% of the learners on satisfactory, 13% of the learners on fairly satisfactory, and 0% of learners who did not meet expectation, while 8% of the learners at risk of failing. For quarter 2, 5% of the learners on outstanding, 19% of the learners achieved very satisfactory, 54% of the learners attained satisfactory, 15% of the learners on fairly satisfactory, 0% of the learners who did not meet expectations, while 7% of the learners at risk of failing. In the end, education is the key to unlock the golden door of freedom.